Okay guys, now we're going to throw a vase together. First we're going to center our clay. Remember, when centering your clay, it has nothing to do with the sense of sight. It has everything to do with the sense of touch. And as we begin to open, remember that you want to make sure that your fingers go straight down and that you don't pull down and pull out at the same time, as you will easily knock your piece off center. When throwing a vase, it's important to remember that you want to begin to throw a cylinder before you start giving it any shape. So we want to pull straight up. Remember those 5-inch cylinders that I made you throw? There was a reason for my madness. That would be that I wanted to make sure you could pull tall enough to actually make a vase worthwhile. A short vase would be about 5 inches, with our tallest vases ranging anywhere between 12 inches to 15 inches. So as you can see, I'm attempting to keep it narrow. I have a tendency to like to pull up and out at the same time. That's why I end up with a lot of bowls. As you can see, I'm making sure that I stay with a cylinder shape. I'm not panicking that my top is off center. I will simply trim that when it begins to drive me crazy enough. Again, every pull is from the very bottom all the way through the very top. We don't begin pulling in the middle of the wall, nor do we begin pulling at the bottom and stop in the middle. We always pull directly from the bottom all the way to the top. And as you can see, when I use my sponge, oh, there we go. Drove me crazy enough. Trim the top off with your needle tool, back to center. When you're using your sponge, guys, to pull up the walls at the bottom, the sponge is helpful because I find that it helps you kind of swoop that clay up so that you actually pull all the way from the bottom. I went to go grab a ruler. It measured just about 5 inches. Again, you see that swoop and pull as I pull the clay up into the wall to begin to make the piece taller. That's why I like to throw with a sponge. Some people can do that with their finger. I still prefer the sponge. It helps me kind of swoop and pull. I've actually done pretty good at keeping it as a cylinder and not allowing it to come out too much. I can feel that the water is starting to get significant on my piece, so I'm going to use a rib to compress that water back into the clay. That is often helpful if you guys feel that your walls are getting wobbly. I'm going to take my wooden knife. I'm going to trim off the bottom so that we have a nice finished bottom. And I'm going to pull that remaining clay that now I have at the bottom here. I'm going to pull that up into the piece. And now that my walls are even on both the top and the bottom, I can start focusing in just a moment on actually shaping my piece. Again, before I begin shaping, I'm going to compress the water just so that I don't put a hole or a tear in my piece as I begin pushing. So depending on whether or not you're left-handed or right-handed, instead of keeping our hands at the same level that they're at, when we are pulling up walls, we're now going to let our inside hand be below where our outside hand is so that we can begin very gently pushing with the inside hand and the outside hand to start shaping our vase. And you'll see what I'm talking about in just a moment. I like to figure out where I want my neck to actually be at. And you can see that I'm beginning to very gently kind of push in with my outside hand while I'm pushing out with my inside hand. And that's going to start kind of giving me that vase type shape. Again, when I want it round all the way at the bottom, I got to make sure that I go all the way to the bottom and start kind of pushing out. I'm not pulling my walls up when I do this, guys. I am very simply shaping my piece. So I'm just giving it just enough pressure to start having the clay begin to take on the shape that I actually want it to have. But I'm not giving it enough pressure that I'm actually pulling any more of the clay up. At this point, I know that my walls are 1/4 of an inch, and they're 1/4 of an inch at the top and at the bottom because I can both see it and feel it. You can begin to see that it's starting to take a vase-like type shape. A little bit of a puddle of water going on the inside. You do not want a puddle in the inside of your piece. Now I'm going to begin to work the top, and I want my top to kind of come out. So I trim it one more time. And I'm going to start very gently pushing my lip out. Oh, and you can see that I lost control and I knocked it off center, but because I didn't panic, I was able to put it right back on center. And there's not a ton of water in my clay. I like the chamois again. Chamois or a piece of paper towel will work just as well to round out that lip. Not that anybody's going to be drinking on my vase, but I also don't want a sharp edge on my on the top of my vase. And my piece is finished. Again, guys, make sure that you turn your wheel off before you get up, showing you that it started out about 5 inches, and you can see that I ended up at about 4 inches when all was said and done. Turned my wheel off. And now I'm going to cut it off my bat, and this piece is finished. Guys, it's really important you turn your wheels off in between so that if you accidentally hit the gas pedal, your piece doesn't go flying. Okay, till next time.